I live and breathe sex. All day. Every day.
Work it out.
Thinking about sex comes very naturally. Because I learned everything I know about sex from my mum.
With a comprehensive finale that touches on the majority of the show's major plotlines, Sex Education formally concludes its run. Netflix's highly regarded British coming-of-age series finishes with a fairly gratifying send-off that establishes the future of Otis, Maeve, Eric, and a number of their pals in Moordale, even though the cast leaves before the show's full run. Maeve continues her study abroad experience in the United States, while Otis and the others adjust to their new institution, Cavendish College, in the fourth season of Sex Education. In Sex Education Season 4, Episode 8, Otis comes to terms with his relationship with Maeve after her decision to continue her writing program in the U.S. Meanwhile, Eric deals with his own dilemma, which has been plaguing him all throughout the season. Cavendish College goes on full alert after Cal goes missing, and Jean navigates her family issues, both from the past and in the present. Luckily, Netflix gives Sex Education's finale an extended runtime to tackle its many narratives. Sex Education has made it apparent from the beginning that Maeve and Otis are being set up to be together. For the majority of its run, it keeps this promise, and Season 4 is its final opportunity to do so. But after all, the two ultimately choose to split up, in contrast to Otis, who is quite happy to remain in their small village. Maeve's decision to return to the U.S. confirms her desire to leave Moordale. Before Maeve departs the nation, possibly permanently, they spend the night together. Otis reads Maeve's letter to him as Sex Education comes to a close, so ending any future romance between the two. All throughout Sex Education Season 4, Eric struggles with his religion and sexuality. Being in a more liberal school such as Cavendish allows him to more freely express himself, but despite finding a new support system, he quietly grapples with being baptized in his church. In his final run-in with God, played by Jodie Turner-Smith, Eric finds out about his destiny to let everyone know that I, God, love them for who they are. This motivates him to embrace his calling and become a more inclusive pastor. It's easy to argue that the core relationship of Sex Education is actually Otis and Eric's friendship. So, it's difficult to watch them have a conflict in Season 4. Amid a series of miscommunications and individual issues, their much deeper problem arises: Otis' indifference to Eric's struggles as a queer person of color who comes from a middle-class family. Admittedly, Sex Education could have further explored this plot, but it settles with the promise that Otis will do better in engaging in difficult conversations with his best friend. In Sex Education Season 4, Otis' main storyline centers on his marital problems with Maeve and his competition with a sex therapist at Cavendish. The show's last season spends a lot of time focusing on the antagonism between the two, particularly once it is discovered that O had a nasty past with Ruby. However, Otis and O make amends in the Sex Education finale and acknowledge that they can both be effective at offering sex therapy at school, but it is unclear if they will actually work together. While largely separated from the rest of what's happening in Sex Education Season 4, the Netflix series is still able to ensure a satisfying send-off to the Groffs. After years of having a difficult relationship, Adam and Mr. Groff finally start to fix their dynamic, which starts with the latter dealing with his personal issues. The pair arguably has one of the most touching scenes in Sex Education Season 4 when Mr. Groff confesses that he loves his son. Sex Education Season 4 introduces Jean's sister, Joanna, which leads to the revelation of their difficult relationship with their own mom. Despite being friendly with each other, it's clear that there's tension between the sisters, but it is all eventually resolved at the end of the show. After a series of emotional talks, Sex Education Season 3's mystery about baby Joy's father is also resolved when it is revealed to be Dan, a rather random recurring side character in the show. Regardless of his biological ties to the newborn, however, Jean decides to raise her daughter on her own, with the help of Joanna and Otis. Sex Education Season 4 manages to establish one surprise love line with Amy and Isaac despite its concentration on tying loose plot strings. As they both begin going to Cavendish, the two begin spending more time together, which, surprisingly, leads to their involvement. Nevertheless, their relationship is not without its challenges. First of all, since Maeve had dated Isaac in the past. They needed her approval. Second, and maybe more significantly, Amy at last comes to terms with the trauma of experiencing sexual assault. Sex Education Season 4's best character is arguably Ruby. She finishes her redemption arc by being a force of good in the last season of the series. Netflix also delves a bit deeper into her backstory, including her past with O. At the end of Sex Education, she finally gets genuine friends after she becomes intrinsic in finding Cal. Seeing her be surrounded by people who truly see her value is the perfect cap-off to her ending, especially since it means that she has a growing social circle beyond Otis. Sex Education's demise with Season 4 was inevitable despite its popularity. Simply put, there is no good reason to keep the show going without destroying its overarching plot. Many of its players are eager to leave the program behind and take on larger roles, such as Ncuti Gatwa's role as the next Doctor Who. Although it might take some time before anything materializes, show creator Laurie Nunn has hinted at the prospect of Sex Education spin-offs despite the conclusion of the main series. In any event, the suggested offshoot can follow a number of characters. If not, the upcoming Sex Education version might likewise focus on a completely other generation of Moordale people. There is comfort in the knowledge that Netflix can simply bring the series back to life if they so choose, regardless of how they choose to do it. That concludes our review for today, but the discussion is far from over. For more, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe for more videos. Keep the magic of movies alive until the next time. Signing off from FK BYTES.